Are your tomatoes still completely green and hard as a rock, even though we are right in the middle of summer? Do your cucumbers look a little pale, perhaps refusing to grow past a certain size, no matter how much you tend to them? You are certainly not alone in this experience. Many of us step out onto our patios, our balconies, or walk out to our raised garden beds in the intense heat of July and August, only to feel a quiet sense of frustration. You have done everything right. You selected the best plants, you placed them carefully in their containers, and you have been watering them faithfully. The sun is shining down every single day, providing all the natural light they could possibly need to thrive. Yet, the harvest seems to be completely stalled. Those beautiful, round tomatoes just sit there on the vine, week after week, refusing to turn that deep, rich, rewarding red that we are all waiting for. When this happens, it is incredibly easy to blame the weather. We look at the hot sun or the lack of rain, and we think nature is just not cooperating this year. Or worse, we blame ourselves. We think we must have done something wrong, missed a step, or failed to care for our plants properly. But I want to tell you right now, as someone who has spent years observing how plants truly function, that this is not a mistake you made. What you are looking at in your garden is not a failure. It is actually a biological cry for help from your plants. The traditional response to this problem is to head straight to the local garden center. We walk down the aisles, looking at rows of brightly colored plastic bottles, searching for a miracle chemical fertilizer that promises to force our plants to grow. We spend our hard-earned money on these heavy jugs, carry them home, and pour them into our containers and garden beds. But here is the truth that the large agrochemical companies do not want to advertise. Those expensive synthetic fertilizers are often the worst thing you can do for your plants at this stage, especially if you are growing in pots or containers on a patio. Synthetic fertilizers act like fast food for plants. They deliver a massive dose of chemical salts that force sudden growth, but they slowly poison the environment the plant lives in. These chemicals increase the acidity of your soil. They leave behind toxic salt residues that burn delicate roots, and worst of all, they completely ruin the natural, sweet flavor of your homegrown harvest. The tomatoes might eventually turn red, but they will taste watery and bland, completely lacking that rich, nostalgic flavor we remember from our childhoods. Instead of turning to chemicals, we need to understand what is actually happening beneath the soil surface. When a plant is receiving plenty of water and sunshine, but the fruit refuses to ripen, it means the plant's internal metabolism has stalled. The plant is completely unable to transport essential nutrients and minerals from its root system up into the fruit. Because these minerals are blocked, the plant cannot produce natural fructose, which is the plant sugar required for ripening. Without that fructose, the tomatoes stay hard, green, and completely tasteless. So why does this blockage happen? Why do the roots suddenly stop doing their job in the middle of summer? The answer lies in the living ecosystem beneath the surface. You see, plants do not actually eat fertilizer. They rely on a microscopic workforce in the soil, an invisible web of billions of beneficial bacteria and fungi known as the soil microbiome. Think of this microbiome as the stomach of your garden. These tiny organisms are responsible for breaking down minerals in the soil and feeding them directly to the plant's roots. However, in the peak of summer, something happens. The intense heat of the sun, especially in raised beds, terracotta pots, or balcony planters, heats up the soil significantly. When the soil gets too hot, this microscopic workforce goes into a state of dormancy to protect itself. The microbes become sluggish, they stop moving, and they stop feeding the plant. Your tomatoes are literally sitting in soil full of nutrients, but they are starving because the microscopic workers are asleep. Many old, experienced farmers and traditional gardeners have known this for generations. They understood that you do not feed the plant, you feed the soil. You have to wake up the soil biology. And the beautiful news is that you do not need to buy anything expensive or carry heavy bags of soil amendments to do this. The exact solution to wake up your garden's metabolism, unlock those trapped nutrients, and get your tomatoes to turn red in a matter of days is sitting right inside your kitchen pantry. Today, we are going to mix a simple, completely natural, 4-ingredient biological stimulant. This gentle mixture will awaken your soil, protect your plants from disease, and cost you only a few pennies to make. It is completely safe, requires absolutely no heavy lifting, and is perfect for those of us who want a beautiful, productive garden without the back-breaking physical labor. Let us start with the very first ingredient, which forms the foundation of our biological rescue remedy. You will need exactly half a liter of water. But this cannot be just any water. It is absolutely crucial that this water is lukewarm. It should feel slightly warm and comforting to the touch, like a gentle bath. Please do not use cold water straight from an outdoor hose. Think about how you feel when you jump into an ice-cold swimming pool on a hot day. Your body tenses up, you gasp for air, and you experience physical shock. Your plants experience the exact same thing. When you pour freezing cold water onto hot summer soil, the delicate root hairs instantly contract and shut down out of shock. Furthermore, the beneficial microbes we are trying to awaken hate the cold. Lukewarm water acts as a gentle, comforting blanket that signals to the roots and the soil life that it is safe to wake up and start functioning again. This is especially important for patio gardeners, as the soil in a small container is highly sensitive to sudden temperature changes. Once you have your half-liter of lukewarm water in a small bowl or pitcher, it is time to add our second ingredient. This is the activator. You are going to add exactly 1 leveled tablespoon of ordinary dry active yeast. Yes, the exact same yeast you might have in your cupboard for baking bread. But we are not using it to bake today. In the garden, yeast serves a completely different, almost magical purpose. Yeast is a single-celled living fungus. When it is introduced to the soil, it acts as a highly potent biological stimulant. The yeast cells do not feed the tomato plant directly. Instead, they send a massive biological wake-up call to the dormant microbes sleeping in your hot summer soil. The yeast activates the environment, causing the beneficial soil bacteria to multiply rapidly. Suddenly, the roots of your tomatoes and cucumbers can absorb nutrients and minerals exponentially faster. The plant's metabolism shifts into high gear, the cellular division inside the green tomatoes accelerates, and the process of ripening is forcefully, yet naturally, restarted. But the yeast cannot do this heavy lifting entirely on its own. If you simply put dry yeast into water, it will eventually wake up, but it will be sluggish and hungry. To get the yeast working at maximum efficiency the moment it hits your soil, we need to provide it with a fast, reliable source of energy. This brings us to our third ingredient. You will need to add exactly half a tablespoon of sugar to the lukewarm water and yeast mixture. The sugar acts as a biological catalyst. It provides the immediate carbohydrates the yeast needs to start the process of fermentation. The moment the sugar hits the yeast, it acts like a spark, awakening the dormant fungal cultures in a matter of seconds. Now, I know exactly what many of you are thinking right now. You are thinking, if I put sugar in my garden or on my balcony pots, am I going to attract a massive army of ants and other unwanted pests? It is a very valid concern, and it is a question many careful gardeners ask. Here is the reassuring truth. The amount of sugar we are using is very small, and we are not pouring raw sugar onto the soil. The yeast is going to consume this sugar rapidly during the fermentation process. By the time this liquid reaches your plants, the sugar will have been biochemically transformed by the yeast, leaving nothing behind to attract ants. However, if you are still worried, or if you simply prefer a more nutrient-dense option, you can easily substitute the white sugar with half a tablespoon of dark molasses. Molasses is fantastic because it not only feeds the yeast, but it also contains wonderful trace minerals like iron and potassium, and it is far less attractive to common garden pests. Once you have added the water, the yeast, and the sugar or molasses, gently stir the mixture with a spoon. You do not need to mix it vigorously. just a gentle stir to combine the ingredients. Now, you must simply leave the container on your kitchen counter and let it rest for exactly 10 minutes. During this 10-minute pause, something wonderful happens. You will start to see a soft, light foam developing on the surface of the liquid. This foam is the visual proof that the biochemical reaction is fully underway. It tells you that the life inside that cup is active, breathing, and ready to go to work for your garden. While we are waiting for that foam to build, I need to pause and talk about a critical danger. This is the exact moment where many well-meaning gardeners make a fatal mistake, and it is the reason why some homemade remedies seem to fail. We have just created a highly powerful biological stimulant. When we pour this yeast mixture into the soil, the plant is going to experience a rapid surge in growth. It will quickly begin to develop fresh, tender green cells as it pushes energy into the ripening fruit. But in nature, rapid, fresh growth is a dinner bell for predators. When a plant suddenly produces soft, new tissue, it instantly becomes highly vulnerable to dangerous fungal diseases. If you are growing tomatoes, you know the absolute heartbreak of late blight, which can turn a beautiful green plant into a black, shriveled mess in just 3 days. If you are growing cucumbers on a patio trellis, you know the frustration of powdery mildew, which coats the leaves in a suffocating white dust. If we simply apply the yeast and water right now, we are giving the plant the energy to grow, but we are leaving it completely defenseless against these microscopic attackers. What is the point of accelerating the harvest if the plant dies of a fungal infection the very next week? To prevent this, and to ensure you actually get to enjoy the fruits of your labor, we must add a protective shield to our mixture before we take it outside. This brings us to our fourth ingredient, which is exactly 1 tablespoon of pure garlic powder. Why garlic powder? For centuries, long before the invention of chemical fungicides, traditional gardeners and self-sustaining farmers relied on garlic to protect their crops. Garlic contains highly potent sulfur compounds. When these sulfur compounds are introduced to the root zone, they act as a powerful, natural inhibitor against harmful fungal pathogens like blight and mildew. But the true genius of garlic is its selective nature. While it aggressively stops harmful, disease-causing fungi from reproducing, it completely ignores the beneficial microbes and the yeast we just carefully cultivated. Furthermore, the subtle scent of the garlic compounds, once absorbed into the plant's vascular system, acts as an invisible, natural deterrent to many common leaf-chewing pests. By adding this single spoonful of garlic powder, you are essentially building an invisible armor around the root system of every single plant. To complete this protective shield, and to ensure the soil environment remains perfectly balanced, we are going to add one final, beautiful ingredient. You will add exactly half a tablespoon of ground cinnamon. Cinnamon is much more than just a sweet spice for baking. In the botanical world, cinnamon is renowned for its incredible natural antibacterial and antifungal properties. It acts as a gentle, purifying cleanser for the soil. When combined with the garlic powder, the cinnamon creates a synergistic effect. Together, they suppress the growth of any harmful bacteria lingering in your potting soil without ever harming the delicate, beneficial microbiome we are working so hard to establish. Cinnamon keeps the root environment clean, healthy, and perfectly primed to absorb nutrients. Now that all of our kitchen ingredients are combined in the half-liter of water and it is rested for 10 minutes, we have a highly potent, living biological concentrate. But it is entirely too strong to be used directly on the plants. We must properly dilute it. Take your half-liter of foamy, aromatic concentrate and pour it gently into a larger watering can or a standard household bucket. Next, add exactly 5 liters of plain water to the bucket. But remember our very first rule. This 5 liters of dilution water must also be lukewarm. If you take our warm, active concentrate and dump it into 5 liters of freezing cold tap water, you will instantly shock and kill the beneficial yeast cultures we just spent time developing. Keep the water temperature gentle and consistent. Stir the large bucket slowly to ensure the concentrate is evenly mixed throughout the 5 liters of water. Now, your solution is ready. But before you step outside, we must talk about the absolute golden rule of applying this natural remedy. The success or failure of this entire process relies entirely on timing. You must never, under any circumstances, apply this biological solution to your garden during the middle of the day. You must never apply it while the sun is shining directly on your plants. If you pour this living mixture onto hot, sun-baked soil at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, two disastrous things will happen. First, the intense heat of the soil will cause the water to evaporate almost instantly, meaning the nutrients will never reach the deep roots. Second, and more importantly, the ultraviolet radiation from the direct sunlight is highly lethal to beneficial bacteria and fungi. The sun will literally sanitize the top layer of your soil, instantly killing the yeast and microbes you just lovingly prepared. The only correct time to apply this solution is directly after sunset or in the very late, shaded evening. As the sun goes down, the ambient air temperature drops, and the soil in your containers and garden beds begins to gently cool off. This cool, dark environment is exactly what the microbes need. When you water in the evening, the liquid has all night long to slowly, deeply seep into the root zone without evaporating. The microscopic life can establish itself comfortably in the darkness, safe from the destructive UV rays of the sun. When it comes to actually applying the mixture, the process is wonderfully simple and requires very little physical effort. This is why this method is so beloved by those with balcony gardens or anyone looking to minimize heavy chores. You do not need to drench the entire plant, and you do not need to carry heavy watering cans back and forth across the yard. The dosage for this potent mixture is incredibly precise. You only need 1 single glass of the diluted solution per plant. Take a standard drinking glass or a small measuring cup, scoop out 1 portion of the liquid, and pour it gently, directly onto the soil at the very base of the plant stem. Do not pour it over the leaves. We want the solution to go straight down into the root zone where the microbes live. 1 glass is all it takes to introduce the yeast, the energy, and the protective garlic and cinnamon shield into the soil web. It is a peaceful, simple evening routine. Walk out to the patio in the cool evening air, take a small pitcher, and give 1 gentle glass to each tomato plant and 1 glass to each cucumber vine. It takes only a few minutes, requires almost zero physical strain, and is a deeply rewarding way to interact with your garden at the end of the day. For the very best results, you should repeat this simple feeding routine exactly once every 2 weeks. By applying this solution every 14 days, you maintain a steady, active population of beneficial microbes in the soil. You ensure that the roots never go back to sleep, even if the late summer heat continues to blaze. So, what exactly can you expect to see after you apply this kitchen remedy? The results are often visible surprisingly fast, usually within 24 to 48 hours. The first thing you will likely notice is a distinct change in the posture and color of the plant. The leaves, which may have been looking tired and slightly yellow, will rapidly turn a deep, vibrant, healthy green. The stems will look firmer and more upright, standing proudly in their containers. For your tomatoes, the magic happens in the fruit. Because the roots are suddenly able to unlock and transport minerals efficiently, the plant can finally produce the fructose it needs. Those stubborn, hard, green tomatoes will begin to blush, softening and turning a beautiful, even red across the vine. And because this process is entirely natural and driven by biological nutrients rather than chemical salts, the skin of the tomato will be firm, while the inside will be incredibly juicy and bursting with that authentic, sweet, rich garden flavor that no grocery store tomato can ever replicate. For your cucumbers, the transformation is equally wonderful. Often, when cucumbers are stressed by hot, dormant soil, they grow in strange, curled shapes and develop a terrible, bitter taste. This bitterness is a direct result of biological stress. Once the soil microbiome is awakened and the roots are feeding properly, the new cucumbers will grow straight, thick, and perfectly crisp, with all of the bitterness completely eliminated. Furthermore, by utilizing this natural method every 2 weeks, you are building an incredibly strong, resilient root system beneath the soil. Plants with robust, active root zones are vastly more capable of surviving short periods of drought. If you forget to water your patio pots one afternoon, a plant supported by this biological network will not immediately wilt and panic. The plant will stop wasting its precious energy trying to fight off mild infections or struggling to find nutrients, and will instead pour all of its vitality directly into producing sweet fruit and healthy dietary fiber. It is truly fascinating to watch how quickly and gratefully nature responds when we simply stop trying to force it with chemicals and instead provide it with the gentle, natural building blocks it actually needs. When you step out onto your balcony or walk into your garden just a few days from now, and you see a cluster of deep red tomatoes where there were only hard green stones before, you will understand the true power of working in harmony with the soil. You will realize that you do not need the expensive, heavy, synthetic products sold in the big stores. The natural world has already provided all the tools we need to succeed, and wonderfully, most of them are already sitting in our kitchen cupboards. We simply need to know how to combine them correctly and when to offer them to the earth. By taking the time to understand the living biology of your soil, you are taking back control of your garden. You are saving your back from heavy lifting. You are saving your wallet from endless purchases. And you are ensuring that the food you bring to your table is the absolute purest, most delicious harvest possible. Never again will you have to stare in frustration at green, unripened fruit at the end of the summer. The health of your garden and the quality of your harvest is completely in your gentle, capable hands. Thank you so much for taking the time to understand the science of your soil today. I highly encourage you to mix up a batch of this simple remedy tonight after the sun goes down and treat your plants to a gentle biological awakening. If you found this explanation helpful, please consider sharing this knowledge with a neighbor, a friend, or a fellow gardener who might be struggling with their own stubborn summer vegetables. We can all grow better, healthier food when we share the simple, natural wisdom that has worked for generations. Have a wonderful, peaceful evening in your garden and enjoy the beautiful, bountiful harvest that is waiting just around the corner.